All right, we're just going to finish up what we did yesterday. So the last problem that we stopped with yesterday, I'm just going to scroll back up, was this one here where we were graphing two linear inequalities, and then we were looking for where the shading overlaps. So we also talked about how you could figure out what points would be solutions, and there's a lot of different choices for that. Like there's a lot of options that you can pick when you're trying to list out the solutions, okay? So let's take a look at this next one here, because it's going to be the same idea. We're still dealing with two linears. I'm going to still, though, solve these both for y, because I like it to be in that form. I think it makes it a little bit easier for me to graph. So if I start with my 2x plus y is greater than 5, what would you guys do first to solve this for y? Yep, just subtract the 2x. We have y is greater than negative 2x plus 5. Okay, we should be able to graph this line. So I'm going to start by going up to 5. And then what's my slope of the line? Good, down to right 1. Should I have solid or a dashed line? Good, dash for this one because you only have greater than. You don't have an equal to sign. Okay, and then to shade, we're going to test a point. I can still test 0, 0 here. So if I put 0 in, I would have 2 times 0 plus 0 is greater than 5. And so that would be 0 is greater than 5. Is that true or false? False. So I do not want to shade on the side where 0, 0 is for this first one. So I'm going to shade on the other side over here. And now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do the second equation. So I'm going to bring that one down. That one says negative 3x plus 2y is greater than or equal to 8. What would you guys do first? What did you say? Add the 3x. So we have 2y is greater than or equal to 3x plus 8. And then divide by 2. So we have y is greater than or equal to, I can't take 3 divided by 2, so we're going to leave that as a fraction. And then what's 8 divided by 2? 4. And now we're going to graph this. So you're going to start by going up 4. What's my slope this time? Okay, up 3, right 2. Or you could go down 3, left 2. Especially if you're running out of room on your graph, or if you have a slope and you're already so far up on your graph that you don't have space to go that direction, you can always go the opposite. Should this line be solid or dashed? Solid. Good, solid this time. And then I can still test 0, 0. Remember, the only time we can't test that is if it's going through that point. We'd have to pick something else. So I'm going to take negative 3 times 0 plus 2 times 0 greater than or equal to 8. So this would still be a 0 on the left. And we're saying 0 is greater than 8, which would still be false. So again, I don't want to include 0, 0. So I'm going to go to my shading. And that would be on this side of this line. And then you look for where they overlap. Now remember, these lines would continue to grow forever up there. You just see a little tiny portion of this intersection. But so this is the area that you would want to go over and really darken that space up, kind of where I've got my bluish, purplish color up there. So you want to color that in a little bit darker for me so that I can see that solution. All right, any questions on that first one? Okay, so let's go on to the last one here. If you just look at the equations, do you have any idea what you might be graphing on this one? There's going to be a circle, and what's that top one going to be? just a line, okay, because it just is x and y. There's no exponents, so it's linear. The bottom one, though, has the x squared and the y squared, which leads us to know that it's going to be a circle. Okay, so for this top one, let's start out by rewriting this for y. How would we do that? Okay, so now it says negative 3x minus 12, and then we would divide by 2. So we have y is greater than or equal to, this would now say negative 3 over 2x, and negative 12 divided by 2 is going to be negative 6. So I'm going to start by graphing this line. Should I have solid line or dotted line? Good, solid. Okay, I can still test 0, 0. So 3 times 0 plus 2 times 0 greater than or equal to negative 12. So this comes out to be 0 is greater than or equal to negative 12. True or false? True. So I want to shade on that side of the line. So I want to shade on 0, 0 this time. So I'm going to shade over here. Okay. Now let's talk about the circle. So what, from this equation here, what would be the center of our circle? Good, negative 3, 1. Remember, you're always pulling the opposite signs from inside those parentheses. What would be my radius? 5, because you have to take the square root of 25. You're not going to have a radius of 25. That'd be huge. Okay, there's no space for that. So it's going to be 5. So you're going to go to your radius, which is your center first, which is negative 3, 1. And then from that point, we're going to go up, down, left, right, 5. Is my circle going to be a solid circle or a dash circle? Dash, because it has a less than sign. So when I connect this, make sure that you're still following those rules for graphing. We don't want it to be a solid circle. We want it to be dashed. Okay, I can still test 0, 0 because that's not on my circle. And so I'm just going to use this to help me know, do I shade on the inside of my circle, like where 0, 0 would be, or do I need to shade on the outside? So if I put zeros in for my equation up above, so I'm just going to write that up here. It'd be 0 plus 3 squared plus 0 minus 1 squared less than 25. And then I'm going to do this mentally. So 0 plus 3 and 3 squared is 9. 0 minus 1, that's negative 1 squared would be 1. So I have 9 plus 1 less than 25. Is 10 less than 25? Yes, this is also true, which means I want to shade on the interior of my circle or on that side of 0, 0. Because I have this line in here, like if I shaded inside my circle, that'd be like all in here. And so it would go on both sides. But since I only want the area where they cross paths, it's going to be in between this line and this circle. So I'm just going to kind of outline that. And this is where you would want to color in darker than everything else. Because that's the only area that they share. So you only, again, when you're dealing with something a little bit more complicated, not just two lines that cross and make an X, you have to shade where the overlapping happens. All right, any questions on those last couple here from this section?